What you're seeing here is a new phase of 21st century warfare, not because of the destruction, because of the target. It's a data center in Bahrain. During the early days of the Iran war, data centers on both sides, in Bahrain and the UAE, and in Iran, were hit.
In general, companies and governments, but the companies in particular that operate these data centers, have largely underplayed the risk of physical attacks. They were much more focused on cyber attacks.
So why do these boring-looking buildings attract so much attention? It's not because they're processing this kind of thing. It's because they've become the backbone of modern digital life. Food delivery, entertainment streaming, personal banking, they all need data centers to process the information to organize your pizza, movie, or money transfer.
So when you're looking at an app on your phone, when you're accessing email, when you're looking for financial records, you're typically leveraging a data center. You're interacting with them, all day, every day.
Think big physical locations that store computing machines and their related hardware equipment. The country that has the most is the US, followed by the United Kingdom and Germany. Other countries are building them too. Disrupting our daily lives by targeting data centers would be an all-out war strategy in itself. But it's not just that.
Data centers are also increasingly important for military operations because military operations increasingly rely on huge amounts of data that gets processed to find targets, to trawl through satellite imagery, all these different intelligence sources that you might have, and to then create lists of targets to strike in a war. And for all of that, you need a lot of computational power. You need a lot of data centers.
And that's what makes them so attractive in a conflict.
So this is a very visible target. It may be important to the economy and strategically, and this is a physically localized target that's also often separate from other military infrastructure. So it can be sort of as vulnerable as a civilian target, but as valuable as a military target.
A couple of days after Iran hit data centers in Bahrain and the UAE, a return operation struck data centers in Iran. The Jerusalem Post reported that those strikes meant elements of Iran's military couldn't get paid. Ukraine and Russia have traded similar attacks. The Gulf War has further sharpened a global focus on defending data centers.
There are some limits to what you can achieve with a cyber attack, and at the end of the day, just blowing up a building, blowing up the facility, can do damage in a way that a cyber attack might not be able to do. Often these are complementary. We will see, we're seeing cyber attacks on data centers all the time, but we will also start to see more of these types of physical attacks too.
After hitting those standard data centers in Bahrain and the UAE, Iran took it one step further. They opened up the prospect of hitting AI data centers. The regime published a list of tech targets, including giants like Microsoft, Google, and Nvidia, and released this video threatening one of the most ambitious AI projects in the Gulf. Stargate is a massive AI data center project in the United Arab Emirates. The $30 billion mega campus is backed by companies like OpenAI, Oracle, and Nvidia.
Targeting that could put billions of dollars of investment at risk, let alone the kind of broader disruptions that would come with taking one of those systems down as AI becomes more and more important.
Many AI data centers are being built right now. This one just opened up in Munich, Germany. And this is a very interesting one, being built in Wisconsin in the US.
That building will have a supercomputer that is 10 times more powerful than any supercomputer anywhere in the world.
Sounds pretty ambitious, and a pretty attractive target for an adversary. And consider this, that supercomputer is not only going to be sending me silly videos.
We're seeing a lot of the major US AI companies increasingly work to differing degrees with US government and the US intelligence, with the US military in various ways. So I think there is going to be more and more entwining of AI data centers and kind of military and intelligence uses, which will complicate some of these questions for sure.
And that could arguably increase the risk of AI data centers becoming targets. The mixing of military and civilian work inside becomes a justification for an attack. The question now is how to protect them.
You can harden these data centers by building a lot more reinforced concrete around them, by making it just much thicker. The walls are much thicker. And one way you can do that is just by doing that as you build it.
But every extra measure pushes up the cost and reduces the speed of development. And being first on AI is seen as an existential goal in the US. Last July, President Donald Trump signed an executive order paving the way for faster construction of AI data centers. His reasoning? They're essential to national security.
My administration will use every tool at our disposal to ensure that the United States can build and maintain the largest, most powerful, and most advanced AI infrastructure anywhere on the planet.
But then the US and Israel attacked Iran, and the war led to strikes on data centers.
These strikes have brought home to governments around the world, or they should bring home to governments around the world, that you need to start thinking more about physical protection of these data centers, not just cyber protection. And you also need to think more about resilience plans and backup plans if a data center does go down. For now, the conversation, I think, has largely focused on the risks to data centers in the Gulf, potentially in Europe, and less so on the risks to US data centers. And I think that's appropriate to some extent. US data centers are more easily protected, but I do think US data centers should be thinking much more seriously as well about physical protection.
Because missile attacks will most likely not reach targets in the US, but drones from bad actors within the US could. And they don't need to destroy the entire thing to have a significant impact.
One of the key parts of a data center is what's called the chiller, which is a thing to keep the data center cool, because you have all these computer chips inside the data center that are running doing these processing calculations. Those chillers tend to be quite fragile and exposed. So if you can fly a cheap drone into one of these chillers and take it out for a day or two, that can cause huge disruption, especially because many of these components are in short supply. It can be quite hard to protect these big data centers because they're sprawling facilities, and a swarm of cheap drones can, it only takes one to get through and cause quite a lot of disruption. And none of these defense systems are perfectly reliable against that.
Those would include things like anti-drone netting, jamming devices, or even anti-missile and counter-drone systems. And this opens up another question. Who's in charge and who should pay?
Companies can secure the physical facility in terms of baseline security, but not military level security. Governments would be responsible for securing the strategic environment or securing facilities against military threat.
And often governments are also the only ones allowed to take action. Individuals are not allowed to attack drones in the US, for example. Only federal agencies and local law enforcement can do that. But this might change. There is a proposed law that would allow private bodies to own anti-drone technologies and use them over protected sites. Whether the bill becomes law is another question, but it shows that awareness of data center threats is growing. The United Kingdom looks like it's a step ahead. There, data centers are designated critical infrastructure. That means they're included in security planning and coordination.
It also affects things like government funding, for instance. So there may be special grants or programs that require attention to critical infrastructure facilities. So they'll generally get more attention because they're designated as a serious choke point.
That might be the theory, but a UK parliamentary research briefing from May 2026 doesn't even mention physical military threats to data centers. In Israel, many data centers are already built underground, but that does not yet apply to AI data centers.
For now, the projects of that scale, I don't know of a single one of those that is being built underground.
So as we've seen, there are options to protect data centers, but everyone is under time pressure. And in the race to dominate the new AI world, that is key.
If you're going to build underground, there is no way that you can do that at the same speed as building above ground. That will just make things slower, it will make things more expensive, it will make things more costly. And for now, speed is the premium. There's always going to be some trade-off between how much protection you want to have in place and how expensive how much you're willing to pay for that protection. But I think companies should probably be thinking hard about what the right balance is between those considerations.
Everything points to data centers, especially AI ones, becoming more important to societies and economies. Whether that's sending silly videos, ordering pizza, or crunching information for national security. The race for the upper hand in AI, and all that means, could be determined by a second competition. Who can best protect those all-important data centers?